'Twas the night before Christmas, and throughout the west wing not a staffer was stirring. One could not hear a thing. The stockings by the chimney had been unhung with haste, for they'd forgot stripper grandbaby, and they had to save face. The Bidens were nestled all snug in their bed, while visions of corn pop danced in Joe's head. And Dr. Jill in her jammies and Joe in Depends had just settled down to see how Matlock ends. When on the east lawn there arose such a ruckus, it must be the Russians. I just knew they'd fuck us. Joe sprang from his bed, but he sprang not so fast, for he's 900 years old. Not much longer he'll last. The moon, it shone brightly on the fresh fallen snow, but Joe was too blind to see objects below, when what to his failing old eyes did appear but Anthony Fauci on a sleigh with reindeer. And that little old driver, so old and so bony, Joe knew in a moment it must be St. Tony. Like a transgender swimmer, his coursers they came, and he harangued and shouted and called them by name. Now Lemon, now Koopa, now Velshi and Todd, on Stelta and Maddow, obey me like God, to the top of the house, to the top of the residence, abide by the mandates, I don't need no evidence. And as the unvaxxed out of venues were thrown, they hit the ground hard with a sickening groan. To the top of the White House the coursers they flew, with a sleigh full of masks, and St. Anthony too. And then in a twinkling, up on top of the structure, Joe could hear all the whining of those silly race hucksters. As Joe drew his head in and turned to his right, down the chimney came Tony, and it gave him a fright. He was clad in a white coat, and stethoscope too, and the masks on his face numbered not one, but two. A bundle of vaccines was flung on his back, and he looked like a junkie who'd just run out of smack. His eyes, they were downcast, his cheeks were so sunken, he looked like a hobo, though slightly less drunken. His mean little mouth twisted into a frown, but Joe couldn't tell, for his mask wasn't down. A syringe was held tightly in St. Tony's fist, as, "Take your damn booster!" he screamed and he hissed. He had a gaunt face and a big pair of glasses, and he called the whole country a bunch of dumbasses. He was surly and vain, such a nasty old prick. He needed someone to tell him, "Eat a big bag of dicks!" But with a wink of his eye and a jab of his needle, his celebrity status, it surpassed the Beatles. He spoke not a word, but went straight to his task, and he jabbed all the Bidens in the arm or the ass. And when he had finished, he flew back to the roof, saying, "You guys are all good now. You won't get the coof." He sprung to his sleigh, and he said to his team, "Let's get going now. Let's pick up the steam. We've got more arms to jab in homes and in schools, so I'll see you next Christmas, you gullible fools!" From high atop the battlements of Castle Curmudgeon, where everyone's welcome for the holidays, and we don't give a shit about your vax status, but you are required to agree that Paul McCartney's Wonderful Christmas Time is the absolute worst song of any genre by any artist in the history of recorded sound. Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. America, and all ships at sea. Welcome to the program. Happy Christmas Eve. I am your eponymous host and humble servant, and I promised you 3 parodies. So I've still got 2 to go, but these are just little 1-verse quick hitters, so they won't take long. First, we have a selection from the official Joe and Dr. Jill Biden holiday hymnal. Goddamn ye insurrectionists, we hope you all die soon, that Omicron will fell you and into your grave you'll swoon. You anti-vaxxer bastards, how intensely we hate you. Oh, tidings of illness and death, oh, tidings of illness and death. I actually feel like some death metal band should expand on that and record it. Is King Diamond still alive? I feel like it would be right up his alley. Maybe Glenn Danzig? Well, if he's recovered from that one-punch knockout he suffered at the hands of the fat Mexican dude like 15 years ago, and if you've never seen that video, then my friend, you have never met the internet. Mr. Martial Arts death metal badass goes down like Bugs Bunny, spinning all the way around, eyes rolling back in his head. Honest to God, it's the closest thing you will ever see to a man in real life getting knocked out like a cartoon character. And okay, that was a weird digression, but seriously, check out that video, you won't be disappointed. And I bet the fat Mexican dude is still eating free lunches on that wild Hail Mary haymaker he threw that happened to land flush on the cheek of Glenn Glassjaw Danzig. You know, on second thought, I don't want that guy finishing my song, but King Diamond should give me a call, if he's still alive, and I don't care enough to look it up. So I guess the joke would be on me if he died from COVID 2 months ago. So, okay, here's the last parody. And you're in for a special treat because this is the first time your host has ever graced you with his Elvis voice. But since Elvis did the best version of Here Comes Santa Claus, I feel like paying homage to the king. So here goes, baby. Here comes Omicron, right down Omicron Lane. Walensky and Biden, all these clowns, I hope that they get AIDS. People are vaccinated yet still masking, it's such a curious sight. So write your wills and say your prayers, 'cause the Grim Reaper's coming tonight. Thank you very much. So, as you no doubt are already aware, the week preceding the Christmas holiday is traditionally the slowest news week of the year, and this year is no different. But I'm doing my obligatory morning fake news media roundup this morning, which I always do just to get a sense of what the lying bullshit narrative of the day is going to be. And I get stopped in my tracks when I see this very strange headline on Politico. It says, "Have I hit bottom? Michael Avenatti and the fall of a Trump-era anti-hero." And for a few seconds, I can't even place the name. I'm thinking, Michael Avenatti, was that the idiot who was Trump's comms director for like 5 minutes? No, that's not it. That was Scaramucci. So who the hell was Avenatti? Oh, I remember. It's Creepy Porn Lawyer. In other words, if the headline had said, Creepy Porn Lawyer, I would have known exactly who the subject was. But I had to rack my brain to remember who he was based on his actual name. And I think that's probably a pretty fitting metaphor for the way things have gone for this scumbag. In fact, if I knew he was watching this video right now, I might say, good job, Avenatti. You have better name recognition as Creepy Porn Lawyer than you do as yourself. So well done. A couple of things jumped out at me about this article, and that was before I had even gotten finished with the first paragraph. Actually, correction. It took me a while to get to the first paragraph because I spent a good long minute just looking at the photograph that accompanies the article. So, Creepy Porn Lawyer is posed on the roof of this house where he's on home detention. His legs are arranged so his ankle monitor is conveniently hidden from view. He's got his arm draped over one knee, his gaze fixed on a distant horizon, his chin jutting out defiantly with the glorious pink and orange Southern California sunset framing the whole scene. Just try not to look at the jumbled power lines and the neighbor's laundry hanging in the backyard. Now, this is the sort of photograph, it takes half a day to get a shot like this, with a professional photographer and a lighting crew. A normal person in the same circumstances might say, okay, if you need a picture, let's get one in the living room or the front yard or whatever. But if you're Creepy Porn Lawyer and someone offers you the chance to build a photographic monument to your own elephantine ego, then you damn well get out the hammer and chisel and you build that monument, son. So before I have read a single word of this puff piece that's supposed to be rehabilitating this guy's public image, I already think worse of him than I did to begin with, just because this picture is so impossibly comical. And as to the body of the article, and I'm going to read a couple excerpts from it here in a minute. The author is someone named Ruby Kramer, and I think it's such a powerful example of what complete doggerel and dog shit print journalism has turned into in the 21st century, because it's written in this ridiculously florid style of prose. It used to be called gonzo journalism, but now it's just called the way everybody writes news copy. Ernest Hemingway was the main originator of it. Hunter Thompson was the most notable practitioner in recent decades, and today I often feel like I'm living in a world where every single news reporter thinks they are the spiritual successor of Hunter Thompson. But don't take my word for it. Let's have a listen to the first paragraph of this thing. Dateline, Venice, California, pardon me. Inside a 2-bedroom apartment, 11 blocks from the ocean, there is a man in free fall, though he has nowhere to go. He wears a monitor on his right ankle, government issued, blinking green beneath his tapered track pants. He doesn't leave except for court appearances and medical appointments. He makes calls on a red flip phone designed for seniors by a company called Jitterbug. Big buttons, no internet cell service from Cricket Wireless. His old iPhone, the one where he handled his TV bookings, tapped out tweets and called reporters, wresting each story into the version he wanted with charm, with pure aggression, with whatever the day required. Now goes straight to voicemail. Maybe you had his number. Back then, for a while at least. Who didn't? You might find yourself thinking, wait, that sounds more like a Stacey Abrams novel than a news feature. And you would be correct in that assessment. Gonzo journalism is about making the reader identify with the experience of the writer. The actual subject of the article is either an irrelevance or an afterthought. With Hemingway and Thompson alike, they would often be sent to cover events, and they would come back with 10,000 words about the fun vacation they just took. This Politico piece, it doesn't plumb those sorts of depths. Ms. Kramer does take the time here and there to fill the reader in on the relevant details of creepy porn lawyer's life and his various exploits and misdeeds, but the focus of the piece is always on the writer wanting the reader to identify with the feelings she experienced while researching the piece and interviewing the subject. Also, the fact that Politico is running a 5,000-plus word feature on creepy porn lawyer powerfully underscores the point that Christmas week really is the slowest news week of the entire year. But there is something much more troubling underneath that observation, because think about the social, cultural, political moment through which we're all living at present, and consider, this was the most interesting thing Politico could think to do a feature about for the December 23rd front page? Like millions of their readers have been wondering how things have been going for creepy porn lawyer these past few years? I remember saying, back when he was first hit with all the indictments when he tried to extort $30 million out of Nike, allegedly, or however much it was, that this guy will drop off the face of the earth quicker than Amelia Earhart. And granted, he had already fallen 95% off the face of the earth before the indictments came down, because now it looks really embarrassing for all those jackass performance artists on CNN and MSDNC, how they'd all been playing this greasy porn lawyer up as a Democrat Party presidential candidate for those brief few moments in 2018. And if this Politico article tells us anything, it's that Mr. Porn Lawyer, shockingly, bought into the hype. And he really did think he was a potential presidential candidate. And for the first 1,000 or so words of this thing, Ms. Kramer really leans into the effort to engender the reader's sympathy for Mr. Porn Lawyer. Here's another excerpt. Quote, "The last time he drove a race car, his most beloved and expensive habit, was 1,411 days ago. The last time he had a Grey Goose martini and a New York strip at Craig's, his preferred hangout in West Hollywood, was 709 days ago. The last time he wore his 5-figure Patek Philippe Nautilus watch, before it was seized by the government, was 708 days ago. The last time he talked to his former client, Stormy Daniels, was February of 2019. The last time a reporter asked him about running for president was March 24th, 2019, the Sunday before his arrest. The last time he saw his parents was Thanksgiving 2019. His Twitter account, where he once held the attention of nearly 900,000 followers, sits frozen in September 2018. Ms. Kramer," close quote. Sorry. Ms. Kramer goes on to state that she spent several days interviewing Avenatti, which I guess explains how they had 4 or 5 hours to spare for that rooftop glory shot. But again, think about all the crucially important topics, things that really matter to actual people, that Politico could have devoted the same resources to covering for their lead feature on December 23rd. How about an expose on the origins of the COVID virus? How about a feature on the unintended consequences of mask mandates? How about something on the teen suicide epidemic? What about a deep dive into what happened that made the CDC stop recommending that people take the Johnson & Johnson vaccine? Instead of any of those things, we get 5,000 words about creepy porn lawyer who wants your sympathy? Like, really? With everything people have going on in their lives, with megalomaniacal bureaucrats telling them they're not allowed to have Christmas, with the groundwork of a Chinese communist-style social credit system being laid, with the people's liberties being assaulted in a variety of shocking and unprecedented ways, they want us to feel bad that creepy porn lawyer was held in solitary confinement for a couple of months? And this is where Ms. Kramer's self-awareness really fails her, because no matter how hard you try to pretend, you can't be a partisan actor and a reputable journalist at the same time. She spends quite a bit of time, probably a fifth of the article, making the case that creepy porn lawyer was detained in a manner that was not commensurate with the severity of the crimes of which he stood accused, that it was done on the direct orders of Attorney General Bill Barr, and therefore, or so the implication goes, President Donald Trump is guilty of holding political prisoners and mistreating them just because he can. Except, wait, hold up. Let's pump the brakes there for a second, Ruby, because the last time I checked, the current president, whose name is not Donald Trump, has been indefinitely detaining quite a few political prisoners who have been held in conditions wildly disproportionate to the severity of the crimes that they stand accused of committing, and none of the January 6th rioters ever tried to extort $30 million from a shoe company. People have been held in connection with January 6th who stood accused of nothing but misdemeanor offenses, yet they spent months in solitary confinement. And why do you suppose that is? Doesn't that sound a hell of a lot like a government holding political prisoners? Hey, maybe Politico should do some investigative journalism and find out the answer to that question. But Politico would never do that, not in a million years, because Politico is not a journalistic operation, just like the New York Times isn't, just like the Washington Post isn't, just like every one of the legacy TV and cable TV news networks isn't. Reporting the facts, uncovering information, disseminating knowledge on matters of genuine public interest will always take a back seat to panic porn and Democrat Party activism. And before we adjourn for the Christmas break, I suppose we need to check in with President Corpsey Cadaverton, or President Poopy McSharts-a-lot. I'm having a difficult time deciding which I prefer, so let's just go with both. The president gave a speech yesterday in which I'd be hard-pressed to describe it as a Christmas greeting. It was more of a "fuck you, America, I'm sick of your bullshit" greeting, wherein Joe calmly explained that if you oppose his policies, it's because you are being fed misinformation on social media. And damn it, if you assholes would just go back to living in 1972 and only watch network news, my job would be so much easier, and everything would be great, and you would all love me. And to the people who are trafficking in said so-called misinformation, the president had a powerful message. Stop it. Just stop it. And who can argue with that finely honed rhetoric? This isn't complicated, America. If you just get injected with the shots Joe Biden wants you to get injected with, and only say things Joe Biden likes, and only get your information from Joe Biden-approved fake news outlets, then everything would be fine. We would all be happy. We'd be whistling zippity-doo-dah out our assholes. For our younger viewers, Zippity Doo Dah is a song from a Disney movie called Song of the South, but you're not supposed to know that movie exists because it is problematic. So Disney decided to memory hole it back around 30 years ago now. I think they have dedicated Disney hit squads who roam the country, tracking down every last VHS copy of Song of the South, and when they find one, they destroy the tape and bury the owner in a shallow grave out in the desert with a Mickey Mouse-shaped tombstone. Also, last question before we adjourn. As a practical matter, how bad does your presidency have to be going when you're not even finished with your first year in office and you've already got reporters asking you whether you plan to run for re-election? I would challenge any Joe Biden supporter, if any remain, to cite a precedent for that ever happening before, but they won't because they can't. The fact of the matter is Joe Biden is the worst president since Buchanan, who was rather legendarily light in the loafers. So don't go getting any ideas about being the first gay president, Mayor Pete. You know, if Pete was the president, would we have to address him as President Mayor Pete? And what title would Chasen choose for himself? First Fairy? Undersecretary to the President? I'll stop there. On behalf of everyone here at Castle, Curmudgeon here is wishing you and yours a delightful, edifying Christmas. May you have warm interactions with all of your loved ones, and may there be not a single face diaper in sight. I will see you Monday. Do not comply. Get off my lawn.